All right. So we're going to continue with our guy, with our lizard man. And I'm going to be wrapping this up by working on the head. Basically getting the main structure of the head in here and seeing what we can do with that. So let's go ahead and put in some more primitives. We're putting in the essentially the muscles that are going to be running up along the sides of the neck. And then wrapping around up the neck this way. Let's pull this neck into this maybe a little bit more length, or a little more. Pull this up so we get maybe a little bit like a throat. Maybe a little bit. It's going to go all the way out to the neck. More definition there. Thin up that neck a little bit in the back. And this is going to be essentially two large bundles of muscle that attach to the back of the skull. Obviously, if you're doing like a cartoon character, you're probably not going to be paying this much attention, but I'm doing something that's a little bit more realistic, so I'm kind of be a little more anatomically correct here. Or maybe not correct, but at least believable. Anatomically believable. And then let's do some primitives. So get really close to the center line. Stuff kind of starts like, crossing over and be a little tricky. I'm just going to smooth it out and separates. Okay, I'm gonna take the flat brush, which really is just inflate. It just inflates whatever you're selecting. And then I'm going to use that. Pop that a little bit more. And I'm going to use that inflate brush just to kind of bump up anything you think needs a little more bulk. See right here, kind of adding these muscles in here really kind of helps that silhouette. Top it out. I need to figure out kind of where that jawline is going to be, so kind of pulling this down. Just put it right there. Just kind of shaping how the initial jaw is going to be looking. I'm kind of pulling from like Tyrannosaurs and Carnotauruses and things like that. It's like the general shape for how I want this to look. You'll notice if you look at photos of them, they have kind of a funny like front view. Like they don't look terribly intimidating from the front view. At least a lot of these theropods don't. Pulling from a couple of different ones to give me kind of what I'm wanting. I really want that front view to be kind of intimidating. So that'd be kind of the general shape. Let's throw in some primitives. So go ahead and do this one. This is going to be kind of the brow line right here. I'm just giving something to kind of edit and work around with for that brow line. It's going to almost be kind of like horn-like in the fact that it's kind of facing forks a little bit like that. It's going to be more aggressive. Here, maybe building up a little bit more. So kind of, I'm just maybe turn this a little bit more into a skull. Pulling that in. Go ahead and put fix the jawline up right here. Up. It's strong jawline. Smooth these out a little bit right here. Use that flat brush. There you go. Smooth out. Yeah, just kind of getting those to fit. One of the things I'm kind of thinking of when I'm looking at these silhouettes is I'm kind of thinking back to an artist, a comic artist named Ricardo Delgado. And he did a series in the early 2000s called Age of Reptiles. He's a fantastic comic book artist. If you ever get a chance to look at his work, it's fantastic. But he had a really interesting way of drawing dinosaurs. So his Age of Reptiles was a dinosaur-centric series. And it kind of followed several different dinosaurs around in different, story arcs. And it was really good, really, really good. But his theropods had an interesting head design to them. So let me bring it up real quick. Let's see, we'll stop sharing and then share screen. So I'm trying to get to. There we go. There we go. So his stuff tended to be pretty brutal, pretty visceral looking. He did a lot of anthropomorphization with his characters. You can see kind of the expressions in their faces. A lot of detail, scale work, really interesting stuff. And like I said, if you ever get a chance to read it, his artwork is just fascinating. I want to say actually he was doing this in the 90s. Yeah, 1993. Okay. I was about to say, I was like, I remember reading this when I was in, I think, elementary school, which seems kind of brutal to be reading in elementary school, but pretty fantastic work. But I really like the way that he did. A lot of the stuff almost kind of reminds me of like what they ended up doing for designing like Drogon in Game of Thrones. There's this tons of like scales and horns and just all sorts of stuff. So it's kind of what I'm thinking about a little bit when I'm kind of going in and working on some of this. this word. I'm trying to get that silhouette of that lower jaw in here as well. Is that basically the top, or the jaw basically kind of comes down. It's almost like a triangle. You can see it right there. Blade locking way. But anyway, so this sphere ends up basically becoming the jawline for the alien, or the dinosaur man, lizard man, whatever you want to call him. So if you look at maybe some reference material, or let's say Allosaurus. I always like Allosaurus. This one's kind of hyper focusing on the bone structure. See right here, see how thin that actual head gets, almost how blade-like that skull is. Especially right through here. It's real thin on the snout. Our thing is with paleo art, everything varies so much when you're looking it up. Like what's considered realistic and what's not. A lot of these now would probably be considered out-of-date designs. Not counting the whole, like, you know, them being covered in feathers and everything. Yeah, basically, almost like a knife. Shape would be almost like knife-like. Yeah. Just kind of bring everything in position. So a little bit more sourcey. Like overall, that shape is looking pretty good. It's going to be a little too wide back here. Let me switch over to a new brush just so we can move everything at once. Go ahead and kind of define where I want the top and the bottom jaw to separate up. Now that's going to be a little bit tricky because I could honestly model them as like separate top and bottom jaw, though at this point I kind of already modeled it together. So let's just go through that approach. I'll just separate them in a little bit, but I want to put in where I want the lip line to be essentially is what I'm getting at, where I think that lip line needs to go. I'm just going to kind of pinch that together. Have that lip line. Something like this is going to be, it's going to figure out, and then we'll have that bottom jaw kind of come in. And the bottom jaw come in. Like that. Kind of what I'm thinking. And that's really just going to be a note of how we're going to cut it apart later on. And pop in a couple of eyeballs, or at least things to hold the place for eyeballs. Somewhere right about there would look good. That'll work. Okay, I'm actually going to take these two spheres, and I'm going to split them off into their own subtool. Reason why is so I can put in, or I can work around the eyeballs without messing them up, or accidentally dynameshing them, or doing anything like that. So that's the reason why I'm doing it. Okay, we're gonna do top lid and then bottom lid. I'm kind of looking at this from the front. I think I want to see a little bit more of the eyes from the front. I can move that a little bit closer together. Move this just a little bit more. The closer, or the more we can see the eyes on the front, the more intelligent it's going to end up looking. Because we're going to have shots of the creatures when they're face on, and if we can kind of see them from the front, that's going to make them look a little more humanoid, and we'll empathize with them just a little bit more. We don't want to empathize with them, for a positive reason, but at the very least, we need to be able to emote with them or see what they're thinking through facial expressions. So by doing that, or in order to do that, we bring those eyes a little bit closer together so we can see them from the front. Otherwise, they look like they are not particularly smart animals. And then for the top and the bottom lid, we can kind of work on eye shape a little bit. If we want like the bottom lid overlapping or the top lid overlapping, however you want to do it. Put that in fluid brush. Build that up just a little bit. And this brush right there, I'm going to go and pinch this just a tiny bit. We have a pinch brush we can use. This guy, really good brush. Because our lids are supposed to be kind of thin. I'm going to go through and kind of pinch this out just a little bit so it makes it look thinner. Let's see how that looks from front. The head is looking skull-wise. The head looks a little small to me. In terms of because the eyes are so large. I think I'm going to add a little bit more bulk to that head. Fairly intelligent. in his bridge. I think a lot of it honestly comes down to just the silhouette. Just looking at it from multiple sides and just trying to kind of fill out a little bit. That silhouette to get it look a little more natural. Fill in that middle area right there. I'm just kind of tucking in some of this extra stuff. A little bit uneven on either side. I'm not sure how it does that, but you can easily fix that. Give it geometry. Mirror and weld. We'll pop it over. Bring that corner of the eye. So it's not on the same level as the other one. There we go. Okay. This side was a little bit more. And when sculpt, I mean, this top lip is gonna come back together, but you get the idea. You can also do some nostrils as well. Let's do some nostrils real quick. We will do. Let's just do a cylinder pipe. I'm just gonna make it real thin. And maybe not that way. Let's turn off X. That's what I'm looking for. Okay, I was trying to make that. Okay, turn X back on. I'm just going to kind of fill in and pretty low poly mesh, so honestly it'll smooth out way faster than probably what I want. That's why it collapsed there a second ago. At least will give me a place to kind of mark in where I want the nostrils to go. Up. Okay. So there we go. I think that's honestly about where I'm going to stop for this part. Um, the body at this point has been blocked in. We have the proportions and mass and everything where we really would want it to be at this point. We have the muscle groups in here, and in this approach, it takes a while. It really does. But the nice thing about going at it with this approach is that with every single one of these as separate objects, and separate polygroups, this gives us a really great ability just to go in and edit things really quickly. And if you go at it and just kind of freehand sculpting and doing just dynameshing stuff together and kind of like bringing it all together that way, really quickly you lose a lot of those polygroups, you lose the separate meshes, you lose a lot of that ability to kind of very quickly change proportions, which is a positive for going at it from this angle. Now, our next step is going to be basically going in and dynameshing and then just sculpting on top of that. But here, this is something I can go back to. This is a mannequin I can kind of change around and buff up or skinny up if I need to, or add things. And it makes it, fairly easy to work with. So that's kind of why I enjoy this. Plus, it gives you a chance to really kind of explore the anatomy of your character or a creature, alien, monster, whatever it is, and think about it kind of in a holistic way that you might not get the chance to before, because you're kind of being forced to slow down and think about things from an anatomical perspective. So the next step is going to be to dynamesh the model. We'll cut the mouth open, and then we're going to start putting in things like claws and teeth. We'll do some proportion checks, just make sure, I don't want to like change proportions of anything too much. And then we're going to go into sculpting on the body, getting the scales, and basically just taking this on to the next level. Okay, and that'll be it.